I first read Love Comes Softly, as you know, Jeanette, I was so taken by two things. One was the setup of the story. The idea that this young woman who had all these hopes and dreams to start a new life with her husband is dashed, and that with winter setting in and no job skills, no money, no way of getting back home, that she has to entertain this idea, this marriage of convenience with this widower. And so the setup was so compelling. And the second thing that grabbed me was this character that you've created, Clark. He embodied everything that I wanted to be as a father and a husband to my wife and children. And it's so rare, especially these days, that a man is portrayed in such an honest, genuine light of being a good person and striving to be a good person, being a godly man. And so those were the two things that immediately attracted me to your material.
I'm pleased to hear that. There was so much of that man that was taken from my father. I had a father, I was a daddy's girl, and my father was a very quiet man, but a very gentle man. And his mother, my grandmother, who was a well-taught woman from the East, who had grown up in a home where they had all the latest things of the day, and then came out to the Canadian prairies and lived in a shack. But she was determined that her sons were going to be raised as gentlemen, even in that condition. And I was always so proud as a child to walk down the street with my dad, and he would always doff his hat to the ladies, and he would always be on his feet if a woman came into the room, and all of these gentlemanly things that most of the farmers around us didn't bother doing. So I was very, very proud of this father that I loved very, very much. And as a little child, my place of warmth and safety was on my daddy's lap, just being held. He wasn't a man that did a lot of talking. I don't remember a time in my life that my dad said to me, "I love you." He showed it. He showed it in everything that he did. And I always felt so comfortable and so loved and protected with my dad. And so this is special. He was really the one I thought of as I wrote the character Clark. But in our day and age, the thing that has bothered me is in so many stories and so many productions that the man is painted in such bad light. And I know that you guys aren't all like that. So we should show and appreciate the other side of what manhood is.
Completely agree. And so you have, it's great because there are those that don't have good role models as well.
Right.
So
Right.
that's something for young boys and men to aspire to. That's something that can guide a woman to the right type of man, right?
Amen
As well.
to that. Yes, absolutely.
And I just think that's what's so important and meaningful about the new series we're doing, based and deeply inspired and based on When Calls the Heart and the Canadian West series, because the culture might not be asking for these values and these virtues and these role models that are so inherent to your writing, but they need it. They need a series like When Calls the Heart. They need books like When Calls the Heart and Love Comes Softly and When Courage Calls, your new series of books. Deeply, because there's just so much hurt and fracture in the world these days. And I think what's exciting about this whole endeavor and the endeavor that you and Michael started, 10 years ago with the Love Comes Softly movies, and go back even further for you and your writing, is that we get for the first time in a very long time to put characters and role models and the big virtues of Western civilization on television every Sunday night at 8 o'clock for families to be able to sit and watch together. And it's such a radical idea, this concept of families watching television together. Who would think that that could be possible in today's day and age? And yet, going back to my best memories of my family were Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, tuning into Bonanza and watching Michael's dad
That's
and
right,
his
that's
brothers
right.
and his dad living lives of virtue and nobility and honesty and sacrifice, and all of those virtues that I think we all human beings have these violin strings. And when you pluck those strings in just the right way, they reverberate no matter where you go, whatever culture, whatever era you go to. And there are those virtues, those strings of sacrifice and courage and long suffering and patience and kindness. And, it's the love chapter right out of the New Testament
right.
on display.
And you're so correct there, Brian, in that our culture now, our society now, is showing young kids so much of the other side. We get fed this constantly from society at large, and now, so what are we looking at? We're looking at bullying, and we're looking at demeaning and not consideration for the other person. So hopefully we will be able to kind of balance the scale a little bit here and bring up the other side for them to see that there is a different way to live.
Right, that's exactly right. Yeah.
A long time ago, if anybody had asked me, who from the Hollywood set would you like to meet? It would have been your dad.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people feel that way as well from my generation, that here was someone that came across as sincere and with a moral base, and besides, he was fun to watch.
Yes.
He brought humor in, and I can see my daughter yet coming in after school and laying on her tummy on the floor watching Little House on the Prairie, and this was her favorite, and I think it's been a favorite of many, many people over the years.
Well, if you think about some of the richest, best television, since the golden age and the dawn of television, Little House on Prairie has to rank right up there. Classic, it's evergreen. Yeah. My children grew up watching, not the originals, I did, but watching the DVD collection of Little House, and they still love it. There's something timeless about those stories.
That's right.
And about the idea of taking wonderful fiction, wonderful books that might be fiction, but they also have incredible truth to them and these true virtues. And the legacy of making what is a legacy show, Little House on the Prairie, your father was behind. And now what we're trying to do in
carry that
over using other wonderful books by Jeanette Oak to lift the spirits of the viewers with When Calls the Heart. We're just, it's like, what an honor, to be even doing something in that same vein.
It is. It is exciting and rewarding and humbling all at the same time.
We get to play God in a certain way. You as an author and we as writers and producers and directors, we're creating sort of the world from the ground up, and we think it's going to be a world that the audience falls in love with and wants to tune into every Sunday night. Sunday night is a perfect time for When Calls the Heart.
Right.
It's the night before everybody has to go back to battle, in the work week.
Right.
And we think that, an opportunity for a good cry, a good laugh, some hope, right? You give people a dose of hope before they go back to work the next day. We think it's going to be a perfect time and a perfect thing for the audience.
It's interesting that you mentioned a good cry, and I guess that's part of how we are made. But I remember one lady years ago that wrote to me after reading Love Comes Softly, and her comment was, "I just loved it. I cried and cried." Why do we need to express ourselves in crying? I don't know. Maybe it covers a world of emotions, that
Yes.
ability to cry, and kind of settles us and gets things sorted out inwardly. Maybe that it can be refreshing as well as so. Yeah, crying helps too.
I
Yes.
think it makes us feel alive too. I feel like so much of the world, there's kind of a numbing aspect to it. Things that we watch on TV, the mundaneness of things that happen through our daily lives. And yet when we cry, when we express something so powerful like that, it makes us feel alive.
Get a little bit of that emotion out there, and
Yes.
Yeah, you kind of purge, you purge the problems in a way that you have personally. And I think the stories that you have always told and that we're trying to tell in our own way are, we're trying to pull those universal, pluck those universal strings, because people go through these, even though When Calls the Heart is set in 1910, right? Maybe in a small town that not everybody has a universal experience with. The same human drama
absolutely.
and needs that we all have, that goes back to 1910. It goes back to 1810 and
Back to Adam and Eve.
in Adam and Eve. Exactly. So it's for us. It's important to tell stories that people can relate to, and I think we're doing that. You've always done that, and we hope we can live up to.
I appreciate it
standards.
very much, the feel and the integrity that you both have kept in the stories, because it doesn't matter what the story is, if that underlying base is there, people will always be able to relate to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Working with Michael, I will never forget the day that I got a call from Michael London Jr., which surprised me, because when I sign a contract with Bethany House, I sign everything away. Anything that can be done with any material from the book belongs to them. And so even though I had heard a little bit that Michael was interested in the book, there was no need for him to call me. I had no right to anything, and so it was strictly courtesy that prompted the call. And you will never know what that means to an author, to have someone care that much, that they would actually contact the author. And so that was a great feeling, and I have learned over the years that that's exactly who he is, a gentleman. I've known Brian not quite as long, but I appreciate him as well. And so I do have complete trust that what you two will do with my characters won't make any of them ashamed.
Well, it's an honor to hear that. And,
Well, thank you.
I do answer Facebook posts from time to time on our When Calls the Heart Facebook page for the TV show. And one of the questions that often comes up from fans, Jeanette Oak fans and avid readers of your books, is why can't the movie or the movies or the shows be exactly like the books are? And one of the things that occurs to me is that we would never be able to match the expectations of someone's imagination. They first encounter your world of Pine Springs and now Coal Valley, right? They first encounter that world from your words in their imagination. I can't read their mind. Michael can't read their mind. We will never match those images. because
That's
it first comes alive there.
Yeah.
But I think what is encouraging and what can be encouraging to readers is look at the movie or the TV show as a bonus to that experience. It's a whole different event. It's a whole different media byproduct of the original raw materials in the book and in the original storytelling, and appreciate it on its own level, on
That's
its own
exactly
merits.
it. Yes.
And I think that we all have to, I mean, we all should do that with all movies that are based on books. They'll never quite match up to the original experience, but there might be something new or something exciting or revelatory in the new movie or the new TV show that still brings out something fresh and exciting.
My first adjustment, I think, after writing Love Comes Softly, well, actually it was When Calls the Heart that was first made into a musical drama by a couple of professors in Grand Rapids. And I knew that this was going to be a big change. So I told myself before I went to this grand opening, forget the book. This is a new experience. Enjoy it for what it is. And certainly it was a new experience, and it was very enjoyable. It was done in rather a bit of comedy as well, but it was so much fun to watch. But I think as an author, you should do that. When it goes into another type of presentation, you don't expect it to be what the book was. You expect it to be a new and fresh experience that will, as you say, present this in a different way. But it's very important to me that you have kept the underlying integrity and faith and whatnot as you present these stories, that it hasn't done a complete flip-flop in another direction, and that's very important to me. But you have done an incredible job, and I appreciate it, and I look forward to watching every one of these episodes.
Thank you, Jeanette.